manta rays. Today we are building on our lesson from yesterday where we had equations on both sides of, not equations, variables, on both sides of the equal sign. Oh goodness, today we have a real special treat because not only are you going to have variables on both sides of your equation, but they're also throwing in, wait for it, the distributive property. Woohoo! All right, so our math lessons just keep getting more and more challenging because you are doing amazing things and you are up for the challenge. So, yes. I know some of you are like, no, I'm not. But yes, you are. I have seen your scores and you are asking some amazing questions and identifying areas where you need help. And if you feel like you're not quite there yet, that's okay. We will get there because it all uses the basis of one-step equations, two-step equations, and doing the opposite. Always doing the opposite so you can isolate that variable. All right, so today, like I said, we're throwing the distributive property at you. All right, let's start with a problem. Example A. Example A says, I have 4 groups of y minus 2 equaling 2 groups of 5 minus y. All right, so when we look back at our notes around the distributive property, we notice that we need to share this outside number to the inside so that each piece has that many groups, right? So 4 groups of 3g and 4 groups of negative 5. And so we here are going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to share 4 groups with the y, and that gives us 4y. Like this. You could just even move like your parentheses around like here and here if that helps you. And then we have 4 groups of 2. So minus 4 groups of 2. Let's see if I can write this correctly. There we go. 4 groups of 2. That's a 4. I'm sorry. Please look at that as a 4. And then we're going to just keep working on this side. So 4y, this is 8, and this is 4y. So we have used the distributive property on this side, and this side is done. We do need to use the distributive property on this side as well. So again, 2 groups of 5 and 2 groups of negative y. So 2 groups of y with the negative sign there. Okay, so this is right here 10, and this is negative 2 times y, or negative 2y. So our problem that we're working with, just like we did yesterday now, follows needing to get the variables. So our first step here in orange was to use the distributive property. Distributive property. Okay, now that we have the distributive property, if I could spell correctly, now that we have that done, there's step 1 right there. We're ready now to get the variables to one side. So yesterday's lesson showed us how to get the variables to one side. We had to move them by either adding or subtracting to move everything over to one side. So we're going to do that same thing today. So you can choose where you would like to start with that. Totally your choice. So I have a line that I'm going to draw now so that it's not so confusing. So I have 4y's here, and I have negative 2y's here. I want a variable side, and I want a number side. So I'm just going to add 2y and add 2y. Now this cancels out, and I'm left with 10 on this side. 4 plus 2 gives me 6y's minus 8. Now, I have my letters on one side, but not all of my numbers are on the same side. So I am not done with step 2 yet. Step 2 says that I still need to keep combining things until everything is sorted onto their right sides. So here I had minus 8. I'm just going to add 8 to cancel it. Add 8, and now that zeroes out. So my problem is 6y equals 18. So step 2, which is all right through here, step 2 tells us to use opposite operations to move things, for a lack of a better word. Okay, so now that we've moved things around, so step 1, we use the distributive property, and now step 2, we've moved things around. Step 3, you are left with a single step equation. So now our single step equation for step 3 says that we can do the opposite, right? So I want this variable all by itself. So to isolate the variable, I'm going to divide by 6 and divide by 6, and that gives me y, just one little y by itself. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So y equals 3. So step 3 down here, isolate the variable. So we really have like 3 major steps that we need to do. 1, look at this and we saw distributive property. So we distributed. 2, we saw that we needed to move our variables to one side and then move our constants to one side. So we moved to the opposite operations, right? We use opposite operations. Then step 3, we had to isolate the variable so that we could find out if this really truly was the right thing. So now what we're going to do is we are going to check our value. So we're going to check it. And so we're going to take this 3 and we're going to plug it in back into our original distributive property. So step 4 is check it. Check your solution. All right, so we have 4y, which is now 3, minus 2. Remember, that was distributive property there, so this should have a 4 in front of it. And then here, it's 5 minus 3. Again, distributive property. So this is 12. And this is minus 8. This is 10. And that is 6. 12 minus 8 is 4. And 10 minus 6 is 4. So 4 is equal to 4. It checks out. We just happen to have a lot of writing here that we had to look at when we were solving. So that is example A. I'm going to turn the page now and do example B for you. And then I will write a little bit smaller so that your try-its will fit. But I wanted to make sure that you could see everything all at once. If you have questions about this problem, make sure that you hit pause right now so that way you can ask those questions before we move on to the next page. Okay, our next example. The next example that we are going to look at involves like combining like terms as well. So we know that when we use the distributive property that sometimes we have to combine like terms. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. So example B, and I said I was going to write a little bit smaller. So we have 3 times x minus 8 minus 5. And that's supposed to be equal to 9 groups of x plus 2. Okay, so step 1 is that we need to distribute here. So we're going to use the distributive property to figure out what we have. So I have, what color did I use last time? Orange. All right, let's stick with orange. All right, so I have 3 times x, which is 3x. And then I have 3 times 8, which is negative 24, or minus 24. Plus I have this minus 5. All right. On my next one, I have 9x plus 18. Okay, so I want to make sure before I move on to the next step is that everything is combined. So I now am going to combine my like terms right here. These need to be combined so that the problems look the same on both sides. Remember, we want it to be balanced. So instead of here, I had negative 24 and I subtract 5 more, which means I have a negative 29. So 3x minus 29 equals 9x plus 18. All right. Oh, I forgot a plus 1. Oops, sorry guys. Okay, plus 1. So I had to combine over here as well. And that gives me 19. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had it cut off on my paper here. Okay, so now that we have the problem set up and we have this written down, now we're going to go through and we are ready for step 2. So step 2 was all about moving things to the next place. So I have used the distributive property. I have then combined like terms, and now I'm ready to move things around. So let's go ahead and start moving things around. So I want variables on one side and I want numbers on the other. So minus 3x, minus 3x. That gives me no x's here, but I'm left with negative 29. Over here, I now have 9 minus 3x, which equals 6x, plus 19. So I'm going to remove 19 from this side so that the x can be by itself. And so this goes away. And now I'm left with 6x equaling, whew, that's a lot of negatives. I had negative 29 and I took away 19 more, or added on 19 more negatives. So this would give me 48 negatives. That's a lot of negatives. Okay, now I am ready for step 3, which we said was isolating our variable. So I'm going to divide by 6, and that right there is going to give me x equaling 8. -8 because of the negative sign. Okay, now I'm ready to check my work and see how I did. So I am going to plug this all back in and check it. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to put a -8. So 3 times -8 minus 8 minus 5 is equal to 9 times -8 plus 2 plus 1. Oh, we're leaving the edge of the paper there. Okay. So this is -24, and that is -24, and that is minus 5. And on this side, I have 9 and 8 is -72. 18 plus 1. All right, so I had -24 and I removed 24 more. That gives me 48 minus 5. 48, -48 minus 5 more gives me -53. Here I had -72. And that equals -53. So it checks out. Oh my goodness, that was a very long problem. All right, we are just going to do one try it today because these problems are so long that I want to make sure that you have enough time to do some work on your practice assignment. Okay, so your try it today. Your try it today is 6g plus 3 equals -2. G plus 31. Okay, go ahead and solve this and also check your work. Hit play when you're ready to see the answer. All right, here we go. 6g plus 18 is equal to -2g plus -2g plus -62. All right, now I'm ready to move things around. So instead of adding a -62, I want to add 62, add 62. This problem cancels out because the positives and the negatives cancel each other out right there. This gives us 8 and 10, and carry the 1, that's 80, plus 6g, -2g. Now I can remove 6g and remove 6g. This cancels out, and I'm left with 80. 80 is equal to -2 minus 6 more gives me -8 g's. Wow, this is a very long problem too. How are you doing so far? How are you in your steps? So here you have distributive property. Here we have moving things from one side to the other to make them the same. Here and here. And now what we are ready to do is isolate that variable down below. So I'm going to divide by -8, divide by -8, and I get G equals -10. G equals -10. So we're going to take this and we're going to plug it in and just see how did we do on this problem. So I have 6 times -10 plus 3 equals -2 times -10 plus 31. Okay, and we'll just keep going. -60 plus 18. And negative times negative is a positive 20 minus 62. Just keep going. All right, so we have -60, but I add on 18. So I had -60, and I add on that, which gives me 42. And I have 20 minus 62 gives me -42. My answer checks out. Whew. That was a long problem, but how did you do? How did you do on this? Are you understanding the steps? If not, mark which area you are getting confused in so that we can continue to go over that. And then I want you to answer your essential question for today, your learning target, around what do we do when we're solving equations and there's a variable on both sides, but you also have the distributive property. What do I do? And then go ahead and give yourself a rating out of 3. Where are you at with this? Mark anywhere that you are needing extra support. Come on back to the Google Meet and ask for help, or you may head on to Big Ideas and do your practice work. As always, thank you so much for all your hard work and your effort today. I appreciate you and your hard work, and have an awesome day, manta rays.